Hi everybody. So today we're going to do our last slide, our last topic for Hinduism, which is society. And remember, for this dimension, we're going to talk about how the tradition is ordered as a society, how it is organized as a society, as well as some of the more contemporary social issues going on in this religious tradition. And the dominant form of organization within Hindu society is the caste system. This is something that most of you have probably heard about before. You may have studied this in like a social studies class or world history class or something like that. So it's a pretty well known aspect of Hinduism. And basically, what the caste system is it is a social hierarchical organization of all Hindus. So the caste system divides all Hindus up into 4 varnas and then 1 caste, which is actually below the caste system, and hence they are called the outcasts. So one thing to know, or a couple things to know about the caste system, it's important for us to learn about the caste system and understand what the caste system is because it's been in operation in India for thousands of years. Most scholars believe that the Aryans actually brought the caste system with them. So it's been going on, or it's been in place in Indian society for a very long time. So it is very powerful. It is something that is still very much a part of contemporary Hindu or modern Indian society today. Traditionally, the caste system determined 2 major factors of your life. It would determine who you married, so you were only expected to marry someone within the same caste as you. So castes are for men and women. It's not a gender. It's not like men and women are from different castes or something like that. So you would be expected to marry within your own caste, and it would also determine what kind of job you had. So traditionally, the caste system was very powerful. It had a lot of influence. It made a big difference in your life what caste you were because it limited those 2 major decisions in your life: who you're going to marry and what job you were going to do. And something else that many people know about Indian society is that arranged marriages are much more common than in other parts of the world. So on the one hand, it is very important to learn about the caste system because it has had this enormous impact on Hindu society, and it can determine these 2 factors in your life. On the other hand, it's important to know that today, the caste system, the role and the meaning of the caste system is something that is changing in modern Hindu society. There is a spectrum in the society in terms of how people view the caste system and how much it does actually influence their life and those decisions that they make. There are some people, of course, that the caste system is still very important, and they still expect it to determine those 2 major factors in everyone's life, who they marry and what job they have. And then, of course, there's people on the other side of the spectrum who do not believe that the caste system has any role to play in modern Hindu society, in modern India, and they would like to see it go away. And the vast majority of people are somewhere in the middle. So those are the 2 things that are important to keep in mind as we learn about the caste system. So let's go over the different castes first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what it means, how this caste system is implemented in society. So as I said, there are 4 varnas, and these are the castes themselves. The top caste are the Brahmins. So now remember, we've had 3 terms that sound and are spelled almost the same. There's Brahman, our main god, our high god. There's Brahma, our creator god, and now we have Brahmin. So be very careful with that spelling. So the Brahmins are the top caste in society. They would have the highest social status in society. And traditionally, Brahmins were expected to become either a priest or a scholar. And I said this is male and female, although traditionally only men would become priests. And this is, I should say, not all Brahmins would become priests, but all priests would be from the Brahmin caste. So those were the occupations that were traditionally associated with Brahmins. So they would either become a priest or they would become a scholar. And I would say in modern times, that's sort of been expanded out to include any job where you make your money through your intellect, right? Where what you do is based on what you know. So that would be a teacher, a scholar, somebody who writes or researches, or an instructor. It could also be a doctor or a lawyer, someone who we use the term professional or an educated professional, right? They make money because they have studied something, and people pay them for that knowledge, right? People pay them because they have that knowledge and they need some of that knowledge. So that's the Brahmin caste, the top caste, so either a priest or a scholar or anything else that uses your intellect to make money. The next caste are the Kshatriyas. And the Kshatriyas are still the second highest caste, so they're still pretty high in society. And they traditionally would be rulers or warriors. So today this would mean probably somebody going into the military or someone going into politics. So those would be the types of jobs traditionally associated with someone from the Kshatriya caste. The Vaishyas are sometimes called the merchant class. So this is where the economy comes in. So a Vaishya would be like a businessman or businesswoman, somebody who had a store, had a business, studied the economy, and put that information to use. So that would be the Vaishyas, right? The people that make our economy go round. We need stores, we need businesses, we need companies. So those would be the Vaishyas. That's where they come in. And then the Shudras are the lowest caste. Technically, they're the lowest caste, and they traditionally would have like a manual labor job. So as opposed to Brahmins making their money based on what they know, a Shudra would make their money based on what their body does, right? So a manual laborer, somebody who works in construction or who cleans or who makes things, right? Somebody who works in manufacturing, works in a shop. So instead of producing something with your mind, actually physically producing something or creating some type of result physically with your body. And then the lowest caste, I'll say that quote unquote, it's not technically a caste because it's below the caste system, are the outcasts. This is the lowest rung in society, the lowest category in Hindu society. And you'll see here in this image up above me, it says actually pariahs or harijan or the untouchables. There's a couple different terms that are used for this caste or this group of people. You've probably heard of the outcasts before. Sometimes they're called harijan, sometimes they're called the Dalits. And this is the lowest members of society because they're actually below the caste system. They are not technically in the caste system, therefore they are outcasts. And traditionally an outcast would do the jobs that no one else in society really wants to do. Those are reserved for the outcasts. So traditionally that has meant waste removal, so somebody who works in like trash, sanitation, and also like sewage treatment, cleaning toilets, somebody who works in, the sewage parts of the city and dealing with the sewage system, things like that. So obviously, earning their job by dealing with the aspects of society or people living together that other people don't want to deal with. And also usually they would deal with disposal of the dead. So burials or cremations. Somebody in society has to deal with the bodies of the dead. We call them undertakers, funeral directors, coroners, but those would be jobs also reserved for the outcasts because traditionally in Hinduism, contact with the dead is seen as polluting. It's seen as something that you don't want to do. So these are the four varnas or four castes and our section below, which are the outcasts. And as I said, everyone is born into a caste. So you are simply born into the caste. that you belong to, and you remain in that caste your entire life. This is not a system of social mobility within one lifetime. So you're born a Brahmin. Doesn't matter what happens in your life. It doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are, how wealthy or poor you are. You will stay a Brahmin. Same thing with outcast. Doesn't matter if you happen to win the lottery, you make a bunch of money, you're still an outcast. That doesn't change no matter what. So technically it doesn't depend on money, right? You could have a very impoverished Brahmin, you could have a very wealthy outcast. But for the most part, these castes have resulted in varying degrees of wealth, right? Typically, Brahmins tend to be the wealthiest in society. Kshatriyas tend to have money, and it goes down from there. So it doesn't specifically mean that that's, they're not tied to money or to income, but it has simply resulted in that in society, that there is an income disparity between these different castes. So as I said, traditionally, you would marry someone within your caste. So there are male Brahmins and female Brahmins, male Kshatriyas, female Kshatriyas. And so in traditional society, right, before there were a lot of women in the workforce, these jobs that I mentioned would really only apply to men. Right, a female Kshatriya would just marry a male Kshatriya, and then he would have the appropriate job. But of course, today that's expanded to both men and women, because women are very much an important part of the workforce. If you didn't marry within your caste, there is a major consequence for that. The one obvious consequence, obviously, being if your family didn't approve of that, you could have a consequence in terms of the relations with your family. But the more important consequence is that marrying within your caste is important, because if you don't, technically your children are outcasts. Because a Brahmin is only a Brahmin because his or her mother and father are both Brahmins. If a Brahmin marries a Vaishya, right, their children are not Brahmins or Vaishyas, because they're not technically a full member of either caste, so they become outcasts. That technically that's what they are. Technically they're outcasts. So this caste system, as I said, has been incredibly influential in forming Hindu society and forming Indian society today. And you're born into a caste, and everyone knows, sort of what caste you're a part of. A lot of times it's through your last name. It's very well known what your caste is. Different last names, different family names are simply associated with different castes. So it's something that's sort of very well known. It's not a secret. People don't necessarily hide their caste status. It's just something that everyone knows, because they know what your name is, or they know your family. But as I said, it's something that is definitely changing in modern Hindu society. So there are people that still very much agree with this system in terms of, well, this is your caste, and this is what, this determines these important factors in your life. You need to marry within your caste, and you need to, follow the career that's appropriate for your caste status. But there are a lot more people, more and more so in Hindu society and Indian society more largely, that don't agree with the caste system. Or they simply want to make sure that caste system, the caste status, does not become a means of discrimination or preference or bias. So in India today, India is technically a secular country. Most Indians are Hindu, but the Indian government is not Hindu. So similar to American society, right? America is a secular country. We are not a religious, we don't have a religious government, but the majority of Americans identify as Christian. So same in India, right? And the Indian government has passed many laws to protect members of each caste. And it is illegal in India to discriminate against anyone based on their caste status. So you cannot, only hire Brahmins. You cannot only, rent out your house to Vaishyas. You cannot fire someone because they're an outcast, or refuse to hire someone because they're an outcast. That is illegal. But it definitely still happens, right? And I usually make the comparison to American society and race, right? It is illegal in our country to treat anyone differently based on their race or ethnicity. It is absolutely against the law to do that. But we all know that that still happens in our society. And it's very similar in India, right? You cannot discriminate, you cannot show bias to anyone based on their caste status. But it definitely still happens. So, as I said, there's sort of a range of opinions about the continuing importance or non-importance of the caste system, what the caste system should still decide about your life, and there is a general consensus that the caste system should not lead to, discrimination against lower castes or preference for people of the higher castes. As I mentioned earlier, right, you are in your caste for your entire life. You don't move up or down in the caste system. But Hindus actually do see the caste system as having mobility because it's just that you don't see it in one lifetime. So it is a hierarchical system, and there is an understanding that, you can move up and down in the caste status throughout your different lifetimes. Traditionally, Hindus claimed that you needed to move up the caste system, and then only a Brahmin would achieve moksha, right? That's sort of, you've reached the highest human lifetime, right? They're supposed to be priests or scholars, so they're sort of the spiritual elite, the intellectual elite, and then from that lifetime, you could achieve moksha. But there have been many Hindu reformers in the past several hundred years who have combated that idea and said that that's actually untrue, that doesn't make sense in the Hindu system, and that actually anyone from any caste can achieve moksha. It doesn't matter what caste you are in. So that's a little bit about the caste system and sort of what it has been traditionally and how it is changing today. So those are some things to keep in mind. Then the next thing I have down here, it says Purusha, and this is sort of the religious origins of the caste system. So the caste system was brought by the Aryans, many scholars believe, but it wasn't just sort of implemented arbitrarily. There's actually a story in the Vedas that talks about the creation of the caste system, and you're actually going to read that story in the World's Wisdom text, and it has to do with a being called Purusha, and Purusha is like a mythological giant, and in the Vedas there's a story that the universe emanates out from Brahman, then Brahma creates the world, the gods are created, then the gods get together and they decide to create humans and society. So they take this being, this divine being or, mythological giant named Purusha, and they sacrifice him. And from his body come the different castes. So I have here head, arms, leg, and feet. These are the parts of the body that, according to the story, the different castes come from. So when they sacrifice Purusha, his head becomes the Brahmins. So the Brahmins sort of, sprout out from his head. So you can see that this is, Brahmins use their mind to make a living, right? So Brahmins are the head. Then the arms are the Kshatriyas, right? They are the strength, the warriors, just like the arms are. From his legs come the Vaishyas. So the Vaishyas, right, are the economy, so they're the economic support for the system of society. So they support everything else, or the arms and the head, I should say. And then the Shudras come from the feet. So they support everything else, right? They hold everything else up. So the idea of Purusha is supposed to show that the caste system, yes, in a sense, it's a hierarchy, but in the original mythological sense of it, it's supposed to mean that society works as an organic whole, right? That not everyone in society can be a doctor. Not everyone in society can be a construction worker. Societies need lots of different people to perform lots of different jobs for that society to run smoothly. So the intent of the caste system is a benign intent or a good intent, which is that it's simply supposed to show that different people are supposed to perform different jobs for their society so that the entire society runs well. Sometimes, unfortunately, the caste system has led to discrimination, but as I mentioned, there are ongoing efforts in Indian society to combat that discrimination. Then the last item that I have down here is religious pluralism and Ramakrishna. And this is really just to bring in a discussion that modern Hinduism, and Prothero talks about this, for the most part really is a tradition that encourages religious pluralism. And what this means is that it understands itself, right, that many Hindus understand Hinduism as containing a variety of beliefs and practices. That over time, right, we looked at the different layers of Hinduism, Vedic religion, philosophical Hinduism, devotional Hinduism. So there have been many different paths and many different layers added onto what it means to be Hindu, what it means, what beliefs are included in that, what practices are included in that. And individuals such as Ramakrishna are the ones who strongly advocated that these aren't different paths to different goals, right? They are actually all one system, that we can call all this diversity of understandings of God one religious tradition, Hinduism, because they all point towards God. And even though they call God different names, they practice differently, they are all reaching towards that same goal. So you're going to read one writing by a theologian named Ramakrishna, who is actually the author of that metaphor that Prothero uses in the introduction, of the mountain and the different religions being different paths up that same mountain. That's actually a quote from Ramakrishna. So he is somebody who strongly advocates that all forms of Hinduism, as well as all different religious traditions, actually are all just different paths up to the same goal of God. So you're going to get to read some of his writings, which I think are really interesting and well done, and you'll get to see a little bit more of how this strain of religious pluralism has become the dominant force in Hinduism today. All right, that is our last topic for Hinduism. I hope you've enjoyed learning about it, and next we're going to move on to Buddhism.